This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening. We'll get right to Hayden Howerton and our special guest in just a moment. But first, guys, we do have to remind you guys to subscribe to ontheponyexpress.com. You can get in now at a heavy discount to join annually. Head over there for all the exclusive recruiting scoop and more on the Mustangs, both on the football field and basketball court as basketball season is approaching. So, before we get into our special guest, I do want to remind you guys we are presented by our friends at StatusJet, statusjet.com. Reach out to David Henry and his team today. They will get you all set up for these trips coming up. They can still get you in for Duke. They can plan ahead for you when it comes to Charlottesville and that trip to UVA in November. And also, SMU basketball season is approaching. It's also holiday time, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Get lined up for your exclusive feeling when you travel with StatusJet. Use code PonyUpACC for a discount on a round-trip flight. They will take care of you, your Mustang family, your friends, your clients, all of those people that you want to fly in style. So reach out to StatusJet today, and they'll get you all lined up. All right, well, we're pumped for this next guest, and I'm going to let Hayden introduce him as the offensive lineman of this podcast, but Hayden, this is another one that is a huge get for the pod, a very, very well-known Mustang coming to make his On the Pony Express podcast debut. And without further ado, the floor is yours.
Man, I just want to hand it over to a guy who was a teammate of mine my freshman year, a guy I definitely looked up to. The pride of South Lake Carroll and that historic program. Was a 3-star recruit, chose SMU, and then he started 10 games as a true freshman. I mean, because of that, I drew a lot of comparisons to that guy and tried to model my game after him. This guy's in his 7th season in the NFL. He's had an awesome career so far. Current starter at left guard for the Arizona Cardinals, fresh off of his win on Monday Night Football, Evan Brown.
How we doing? Glad to be on the pod. Excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome, bro.
Thanks for joining us, man. This is great.
You got an initial reaction so far from this season, man? I mean, I know you're chopping it up with the boys in the locker room, so I'm sure you got some.
It's been exciting. It's been fun to give a little talk to the TCU guys. We got 2 on the team with LJ and Amari.
Yep.
So that was a fun week there. And then rookie running back Trey Benson, he went to Florida State. We beat up on them. That was another fun one. Then we got one of our DBs was a Louisville guy, so talked a little smack to him. So it was a lot of fun. It's been a good year for the Stangs to be able to talk some stuff to teammates.
Some of the best, dude, in the locker rooms. I always loved that too, except wasn't quite as good of a year last year when I was owing a little bit to the Oklahoma guys, but that's all right, man. But I just kind of want to get into your career, man. Some of your life stuff. I mean, obviously you're a stud now, but were you always a football stud? I mean, if I remember correctly, I want to say you were driving some race cars or something growing up.
Yeah. When I was what was that? I was probably the ages of 4 to like 14 or 15. I raced cars. It was a hobby that me and my dad started together when I was younger. He raced probably till I was the age like 7 or 8. Then he kind of stopped and became like my crew chief. But I raced a whole bunch of different cars, from different types of go-karts into what's called bandoleros, and then legend car, which are full body cars. That was my hobby growing up until obviously big guy. Kind of outgrew that. You don't see many big race car drivers, to say the least. But no, so I kind of outgrew that a little bit, and then focused on football into high school, and still going.
Couldn't fit in the car anymore, huh? Yeah.
Nah, a little too heavy. You had a weight limit with driver in the car, driver without the car, so you had to make the weight without. And then when I got in, I was just way over, and it was like,
Need to get you on Gran Turismo or something. But Went to South Lake Carroll, man. That's a historic program. Talk to us a little bit about kind of the culture and some of the tradition in that program, and some things that I guess you took away in your football career.
Yeah, no, I think in South Lake it starts young with most of the kids growing up playing what's called Dragon Youth football. All the dads coach it of the kids, and that kind of starts the tradition per se. It's the saying in South Lake, protect the tradition. But it's a storied city for football. We've been very good in high school football over the last, I don't know, since started winning championships, and I guess it would be the late 80s, early 90s. But yeah, no, started then, and then growing up through middle and high school, it's just the whole town bleeds green, and it's been good, always been good coaches, good players to come out of there, and it's always a good program. I'm pretty sure they're undefeated right now going into week 9 or 10. You don't most South Lake teams don't ever lose in district, so they always go to playoffs undefeated. So we'll see how it goes, but they're looking pretty good this year again.
Yeah, I definitely vibe with you on that. I mean, South Lake does have a couple wins over my Katy Tigers in
no, y'all, great program down there. I'm pretty sure I've grown up. I watched South Lake lose to Katy once or twice and beat them a couple times. So
that's a great rivalry. I wish we were able to make that happen more. But
yeah,
walk us through some of your recruiting, man. I mean, I know South Lake is a just 11th and 12th grade. So does recruiting even start before then? Can you still play varsity as a freshman? Like, how does that kind of work?
Yeah. So we have like the way they split it up. It's kind of like you have South Lake High School, then you have the senior high. So the high school is 9th and 10th, senior high is 11th and 12th. But a few sophomores can make varsity. I was on varsity as a sophomore. I had a shoulder injury during that year, so I was supposed to start at tackle, but early in training camp, shoulder went out on me, so I sat out that year. Won state that year, so that was a great experience of it, but sadly wasn't able to play in it, but was still part of the team and fun to do. And then played my junior and senior year there. Recruiting wise for me, started probably junior year during the season. Had all the letters from a lot of schools, but at the time I was maybe 6'1" give or take, fighting the height battle all my life. All the big schools, went to the A&M camps, went to the Texas camps, performed well. They told me that, but they just told me I was too short. And that was the story of my recruiting. And got to SMU, or went to a camp at SMU. They offered me, I think at that camp or a couple of days after, but it was between there. I was looking at SMU, I was looking at Tulsa, and then had a couple of other places that I was looking at, but those were kind of the two places I was deciding on. And SMU being close to home, great education, ability to play D1 football, kind of was all together with me, and that was my decision. Committed there. What was that? Probably my end of junior year, summer leading into senior year. I kind of just didn't want to deal with it throughout the senior year, and just obviously it's a whole different animal these days compared to what it was way back then. I look back at it how I was recruited, and talk to some of the high school kids I know at South Lake and around the DFW area, how recruiting is now. And I don't know if I would have gotten a scholarship. They only offer 8 to 10 high school kids for each year, for what I hear, per school, and then they're out in the transfer portal taking kids. So I don't know if I would have had to go D2 or D1AA or whatever the situation may be, but I was fortunate enough to be there, and wouldn't have traded for the world. Loved SMU.
How did you get, or who recruited you from SMU, and who got you there, I guess? Because I that was right when I was a senior at SMU, and obviously there ended up being coaching change and things like that. But what was that like with Coach Jones there? I played for June for a year, and so he was a great players coach for sure.
Yeah. No, I like June. Didn't really know him all that much because he was there when I got there on campus. Would have been June of 2014. Oh, that's a long time ago now. June of 2014. And then he was done by like week 2 or 3 of the season. But yeah, he was the head coach, and then my O-line coach, Wes Swan, I want to say, Coach Swan was who recruited me. Interesting guy. No, liked him a lot, but it was, at the time I, told myself, I'm not going to commit to a program for the coaches. Coaches come and go. I wanted to find a place that, felt like home to me, and just like, the campus feel, the vibes was, I knew I was going to be a business major, great business school. Just kind of all together was what it was for me. But yeah, that was who recruited me. And then they were out that year, and then Chad Morris took over and was with him and Coach Fry for my remaining 3 years there after that.
What was that transition like? You started as a freshman and then you kind of have to start over with a whole new staff coming in. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of how you developed a relationship with those guys?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was a little weird because I don't know, week 6 or 7 of my that would have been my freshman year. I blew out a shoulder injury, so I had torn my labrum and played through it here and there, but the whole off season, with the new staff, I was rehabbing the shoulder, so I wasn't really lifting with the team, working out with the team. I was in the training room, kind of getting through there, but I think they knew I could play, and Coach Morris, he had recruited me a little bit at Clemson, and so I had already known him previously, and they knew kind of what guy I was, so I wasn't too worried about that. But yeah, I didn't really get back with the team doing much until really the summer program. So yeah, missed out on a lot of that first off season with how it went with those guys, just because was in the training room most of the time just doing the rehab, so couldn't really touch much on it. Just wasn't around for the lifts or the running and stuff like that. But got into the season, so it was a tough year for the boys, but we made it through.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you kind of built that relationship with Dustin Fry? Was it just one of those deals where you let the on the field talk? Because I remember y'all being close. Year.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we just developed a good relationship over time. Just between playing over the years. I think I was at right guard my freshman and sophomore year, and then when I moved to center my junior year, I think that's when we became closer as a coach and player. Just because being the center, in meetings, they're there for everybody to hear a part of, but a lot of the information goes to the center with making decisions, making calls, kind of how that goes. So I think that's where we started to develop our relationship and became pretty close.
True that, brother. But you did set the building blocks, man. You guys finished with a winning season, 2017. It's first bowl game for SMU since the 2012 Hawaii Bowl. But, dude, I have to admit, that was a crazy and not super fun bowl season, to be honest, with everything that went down with Coach Morris and Sonny Dykes.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. I didn't even experience most of it. I was sick as a dog for the majority of it, so I was held up in my hotel room just trying to feel okay for the game. So I know it was didn't know who was calling the plays. It was a tough show at the time, but when it comes down to it, it's the business of college football. Guys are going to move on. Guys are going to get paid elsewhere. Guys, from staff speaking, and happy for them when the time comes. But at the same time, it's like it's tough. Yeah. Tough situations.
Yeah, funny. GJ is now killing it at Texas State as the head coach there, and he called the plays for that bowl game, which is still just wild to see all that. Kind of come around for him at least. I don't know if you knew him well or not.
He was our O-line GA.
Oh yeah, definitely worked with him a good amount for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, you weren't there for the infamous night one then of the Frisco Bowl season.
I was not. No, I know all about it, but no, I was sadly not. I was trying to survive in a hotel room.
We'll bury that, never to come out.
Still good find the guys on the boulevard here in a couple weeks for that one.
But anyway, man, you move on. You go to your pro day. You killed it, man. I mean, I remember that about how much buzz there was about you after your pro day. I mean, I don't remember your numbers. I remember you did 36 on bench because that was the mark that I set for myself.
Yep.
When I would be a senior. But kind of what was that process like? Where did you train? Kind of talk a little bit about the pro day training stuff.
Yeah, trained at a facility out in Fort Worth called APEC. Still train there today. Go back in the off season, do a lot of my off season strength and conditioning work and speed work there. They run a great program, got a great group of guys from the all different teams around the league of just guys that come back from linemen to skilled guys to quarterbacks and stuff. So it's same facility Mahomes is at with his guys. So they do a great combine program for excuse me, for all the incoming seniors going to be working on their pro day, working on the combine stuff. So they do a great job there. So yeah, I trained there. First 3 months of the off season, or the January, February, March, and then we have our pro day out in April. So yeah, they did a great job, preparing me for that and kind of teaching me all the tricks and ins and outs of all the combine drills that, in my opinion, are the biggest waste of time to evaluate a person's athleticism. I mean, yeah, you can see someone can move well, but like, you play ball.
Did they teach you to make your arms shorter for the vert?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I jumped 36 at the pro day.
Yeah, that's what it was.
No,
that's right.
No chance I'm touching.
That's what I thought.
Actually, I had a 36-inch vertical, but it was a little, shoulder down, broken wrist. Let them see what they want to fix, and send it. But hey, those are the numbers that are written down, so I'll live by those. Those were my numbers. So
yeah, that's a for life thing, man. But
yeah.
Go through the draft process, man. The draft is always hard. You ended up being an undrafted free agent to the New York Giants. Can you just talk a little bit about your journey kind of from draft up until you kind of got your big break in Detroit?
Yeah. Didn't know if I was going to be drafted or not. It was, had an agent and heard from a couple teams here, a couple teams there, late round maybe. So didn't watch day one, didn't watch day two, wasn't expecting anything. And, I didn't like watching day three, my parents and stuff, and my girlfriend at the time, wife now, but, they were watching, but I was away. I was doing, I don't know. I think at one point I took like a 30-minute walk. I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to watch this. Like, it's just a waiting process. And then, middle of the sixth, late sixth, you get calls and teams calling you, telling you like, probably not drafting you, but, looking at, undrafted free agent, preferred, whatever they want to call it, opportunities. And so, you get a call, you don't know, you answer it, it's this, that, and it's like, okay, we'll wait. And so, round goes, don't hear anything. And then it's kind of, working with the agent on what he thinks the best spot is for you based upon the room, based upon, a lot of factors, location. And, we settled on New York being, what that room looked like at that point. And off to New York I was, like two weeks later, I think. 2 weeks after that, we were out there for our what do they call that thing? Rookie minicamp. So we were going to rookie minicamp, and you pretty much throw you the iPad, playbooks on it, learn it, and you're out there practicing the next day and right into kind of the summer program. And then you go home for 4 or 5 weeks and then right back for training camp. So that's kind of how that whole thing goes.
Man.
Good.
I was just going to ask, were you teammates with Jackson Barton then as well? Were y'all both in New York at that time? Okay.
Nah, he was there, I want to say in 20 or 21. I was out. So yeah, I'll keep going. I was, New York my first year. She made the roster day one, undrafted guy. I was inactive for most games, but, they kept me around. They liked me there. And, I just tried to learn everything I could from, who's my O-line coach? Hal Hunter was my first O-line coach there. Just tried to soak it up, learn the league, experience the league, learn as much as I could, and just try and improve myself each day. It's kind of my mentality I've taken to every team I've been on, every opportunity I've had is learn as much as I can from each coach that I think I can apply to my game, and just try to make myself the best player that I can be. So I was in New York my first year, second year, same thing, go through off season, go through training camp. That year, I don't think I made the roster, but they elevated me a couple times. And then towards the end of the year, 1 week I was down on practice squad. Miami claimed me off. So I went to Miami and played my first snaps on offense at that point. Played, 50, 60, 70 snaps to the end of the year. Ended the season there. And then that offseason signed to Cleveland, a 1-year deal there. So went to Cleveland. Same thing, able to make the roster. 1 week they moved me down. Wasn't starting at that point or anything, but they moved me down and then signed to Detroit. And that was at the end of 2020. Kind of COVID year was a weird year for everything across every board of every facet of life. So signed to Detroit, and then remade the roster there as the backup center. And then week 4, Frank got a toe injury that kept him out the year, and I started from there. And then that was kind of my first big opportunity into playing some good football, and re-signed with Detroit after that year. And I was just saying kind of as his backup. And then they had Big V at guard. He had a back injury and got another opportunity to play a lot of snaps at guard. So Detroit was kind of my first, big time opportunity to get, a lot of playing time through a season. And, I was able to, learn a lot from the playing experience and play well enough to keep around. And that season ended, signed a 1 year in Seattle, started all but one game there at center. Had a little injury that kept me out of game, and then signed to Arizona this year and been starting left guard this ever since. So
that's awesome, dude.
yeah.
I feel like I know a little bit about Detroit. I have another friend of the show that's out there, but talk a little bit about Frank and Panay and just, kind of that group. I have heard it's such a tight knit unit in that O-line room.
No, yeah, it was just, starting with Hank Fraley out there. He's the O-line coach. He was there with the previous staff with Patricia in 18 and 19, and or I guess that would have been 18, 19, and 20. Patricia got let go, and Frank and Deck went to fight for him when Campbell came in and said, like, "Nah, we really like this guy," and they fought for him, and Campbell hired him, so he's been there ever since. And those three guys are kind of the core foundation of that room. And then that first year they drafted Panay, and you can see what kind of player Panay is. I mean, I think, in my opinion, he's a top 3 tackle in this league, and he's going to be a fantastic player for a long time to come. But man, they've got it rolling over there right now. Happy to see for those guys in Detroit doing a lot of good things right now. And yeah.
What when you look at Dan Campbell, I mean, what's he like? What was that transition like for you, and just getting around him?
Yeah, I think he's as true as he is when you see him in TV interviews and media interviews as he is behind closed doors in the locker room. I mean, he's got that goofy, quirky, weird quotes. We'll fight you with one ass cheek and 3 toes, and that's what he said. Those are the quotes he used, and he doesn't shy away from it, and I think it's great. He's a player's coach through and through, and takes care of the guys when they need it, but knows how to be a head coach when he needs to be. So I think he's running a good ship up there, and good leader of that ship.
You played with a freak tackle in Panay, and now you're next to another one in Paris Johnson Jr. I mean, how are the guys, man? I just have to ask. I miss those guys. I was out in Arizona there for a second. It's a place I'm obviously a little familiar. How is everyone, man?
No, we're doing good. We're gelling as a group right now. Paris is my guy. I love playing next to him. Funny guy. It's been a lot of fun. No, boys are doing well. Boys vibes are high. After this win, we're very up and down right now. We got to find a little bit of consistency, but you can't find consistency without getting a win. So get one, and on to how it goes, on to the next week, and
right.
hopefully get another one.
Clayton's a fun dude too to run that room.
I've gotten to know him pretty well, and I like how he runs the room, and he's obviously young with being an O-line coach, and he's learning, but I think he's doing a fantastic job right now.
A guy I covered. I gotta go back to Seattle real quick. What's it like playing next to D. Lou? I mean, he's
D. Lou.
I mean, yeah.
Lou's. I like Lou a lot, man. Lou's a funny guy. He'll talk a little bit here and there, but he doesn't say a lot. But yeah, he on the football field though, like, good dude, smart guy on the football field. And yeah, when you can get him in a groove and get him playing, man, he plays really good ball. So I know he signed a pretty good deal out there with Carolina right now. So I was so happy to see that for him. I know they're having a tough year right now, but yeah, I was just happy to see him, have some success with that, and good ball player, and hopefully they can get building that program up now.
Yeah, he kind of has like the opposite story of you. I feel like, I mean, you were at a Texas powerhouse, around huge crowds. I mean, he came up just playing like just basically
small ball.
His senior year, small ball, JUCO, and then won a natty at LSU. But anyway, sorry, I had to ask about D. Lou. He's D.
Lou's a great dude, man. I had a lot of fun playing next to him that year.
That's awesome. I always use this as kind of a measuring stick for who are the guys I'm going to hang around. What are your OTA activities, dude? They cut you loose at noon. What do you get into in the afternoon in the off season, bro?
Depends where I'm at.
Okay.
Out here, played golf. Played a good amount of golf just
Nice.
because, I mean, Arizona being a great hub for golf. So yeah, the thing is, you're 110 degrees out there.
Yeah.
You're just baking out in the heat. So I was really only ended up playing 9, and then I'd come back and hop on the sticks with the boys, play a little bit of Call of Duty. Other than that, I wasn't able to spend a lot of time out. I was flying backing out to a whole bunch of different places with I don't know, I had a couple weddings to go to. I had a couple of vacation weekend kind of trip things planned, and then I just flew back to see Maddie back at home. So
Family man,
traveled a lot, but say again.
Family man, you got a wife at home,
Yeah.
man.
Got to.
But
yeah, so like here, that's what I was doing. Went up in Seattle. Still flying back a lot, but that was more just I'd go out in the afternoon or in the evenings and go eat at a bunch of different places. Seattle has some fantastic food, a lot of Asian influence out there, and me being quarter Japanese, I grew up eating a lot of Asian food, and it's probably one of my favorite cuisines to eat. So yeah, I was eating at different restaurants every day, just trying just different foods and just enjoying it. A lot of good food out there. So
that's sweet. There's a sushi place in Arizona. I'm gonna have to text you afterwards. Jackson has taken me like 15 times.
Okay.
Just ask Jackson tomorrow. And
All right.
exactly where I'm
I can do that.
Yeah. You got any plans for Arizona's bye week, man? You gonna come around here, hang out with us?
Yeah. I'll be back in town for the BC game. So yeah, we'll definitely catch up. But yeah, we'll be back probably we're getting into town Thursday-ish and go out and do the whole boulevarding experience. Only done it a handful of times, so it'll be an exciting time. So
it's gassed up now. It was good a long time ago, but it's gassed up with this ACC move. I can tell you that much.
New
question for y'all. Actually, what do we think about that Pitt game? We think there's a chance. Think there's a chance for that game day?
We're not going to jinx it, but
gotta get through this week.
Not to just looking in the future a little bit. Maybe not. We'll see.
As Hayden likes to say, Hayden made that move. It's perfect. It's not jinxing; it's manifesting.
Manifesting. There we go. I like that.
That'd
be a cool experience, man.
Yeah, that would be wild.
I think it's homecoming also, right?
Yes, it is.
Talk about gassed up.
Yeah. That'd be a good one.
Yeah. Started manifesting that like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
After the TCU game. But you got a spot you're going to hit when you're back home in Dallas, man?
Man, I'm probably going to hit Chewy's.
There you go.
I'm a big fan of Chewy's. It's good Tex-Mex spot, nothing over the top, nothing too special. They got good margaritas, and they got some jalapeno ranch dip that I love it. That's one of my favorite dips for chips that I eat way too much of when I go. So yeah, I'm missing some Chewy's for sure, but other than that, no, just see a couple people and just take a couple days off just for some relaxingness.
Yeah, Mexican food you get outside of Texas is not the same.
Some good taco spot around here. Rusty Taco. There's a couple in Dallas. They got one out here, so it's been my little Tex-Mex-esque fill.
There you go. Do you have a prediction for this weekend, SMU-Duke?
We're going to get the dub. I know that much.
All right.
I don't know if it's going to be by over 11.5. We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah. You're busy studying another tape.
I got a buddy up in Seattle, Jake Bobo. He was a Duke guy, so we may have to put a little friendly wager on it. I'm going to shoot him a text after this.
There you
go. Love it.
Oh yeah,
man. Well, it's just awesome to see you doing what you're doing. Just for all the quote unquote short guys out there too on the O line. I mean, you get that leverage, you get it going, and it's awesome to see it play out the way it has for you. It's especially just coming in as a guy from South Lake Carroll, and you started right away and you put it all together from start to finish for SMU.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Big part of the culture, man. You're a big part of why SMU is who they are today. So we appreciate you jumping on with us, bro.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me. Love listening to the episodes. I think y'all do a fantastic job, keeping people informed and good insight. And, I love listening to them.
Appreciate that. Well, we'll have to do it again. We'll get your off-season thoughts on everything once it's all said and done. And looking forward to following you and keep it rolling in Arizona. Keep that momentum going after this week.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate you
All right,
jumping on with
appreciate
us.
y'all. Thank you,
bro.
All right, see y'all. Bye.
Appreciate it. Evan Brown stopping in for us. And we do want to remind you guys that we are presented by our friends at AKM Turf and Greens. Reach out to them today, info@akmturfandgreens.com, or go to the website, akmturfandgreens.com, to see some of the work that they've done, putting together some elite backyards and entire yards for those of you in and around Dallas, creating a perfect entertaining space for this fall weather. They'll get you all lined up. You can use code PONYUP for $500 off your project today with our friends at AKM Turf and Greens. Hayden, that was a good one. Always good to catch up with Evan Brown, a guy that was there right at the end of my college days and getting going in his career very quickly as he started all those games for the Mustangs. So that was a good one, and we'll be having him back again.
Yeah, bridge the gap between us. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. The SMU Mustangs are back on the field this weekend against Duke, 7 p.m. Central, ACC Network game this weekend. But let's dive into the Blue Devils, their athletic program, and all the things that make up this new ACC foe for the Mustangs.
Year one in the ACC, I got to break down all of our first-time opponents as conference foes. So let's get to know the Duke Blue Devils a little bit. Obviously, a very historic basketball school. Coach K, while he's not the head coach anymore, put a ton of guys in the NBA. Everybody thinks of Coach K. He definitely left his mark on that basketball program. But, man, let's move over to the gridiron. Started football in 1922. This is the 103rd season for Duke. They have an all-time record of 523, 549, and 28. They have 2 national championships under their belt, with the most recent being in 1941, which is still more recent than Texas A&M. They have 7 ACC championships, with their last in 1989 under Coach Steve Spurrier, who I did not know that he coached at Duke. Learned something new. Their venue is Wallace Wade Stadium, which holds 35,018. And then Wallace Wade is a college football Hall of Fame coach who coached for Duke Blue Devils between 1931 and 1950. But their current head coach is Manny Diaz, very defensive-minded coach. The history versus SMU for Duke. Duke's 2-0 all-time versus SMU. The last time they played was October 13th, 1956 in Durham, North Carolina, and Duke was able to pull that one out 14-6. So look, SMU won the first game in a very long time against Stanford last week, and they're going to try to do the same this week.
Yeah, big one for a lot of reasons. And obviously SMU could be looking ahead to homecoming, Pitt, all the things that come with an undefeated team coming to Dallas, or at least currently undefeated. But this one is a big one for SMU. 6-1 Duke. They are bowl eligible. There's a lot of ties between these two coaching staffs and programs right now as well. So this is one that I don't think this coaching staff is going to let the guys off easy with, especially what we talked about, some of the second quarter, third quarter, things to clean up from Stanford. They've got work to do this week against Duke.
This is unfortunately a big-time trap game. You're coming off of a game where you didn't play your best and were still able to win, and you're looking at next week in what could be one of the biggest games in program history. This is a 6-1 Duke team where, while they're not ranked, I mean, guys, they're bowl eligible too already at this point. Their only loss is to Georgia Tech in Atlanta, which Georgia Tech is a very physical ball club, and they came in 4th in the ACC last year. Georgia Tech did, and so look, all of their wins are extremely tight, minus the game against the Group of 5 team and, the FCS team they played. But head coach Manny Diaz, I talked about it a little bit. He's a defensive guy. That's why he brought Rhett Lashley to Miami to fill that role. And offensive coordinator Johnny Brewer, he worked at SMU. He's been a guy that has followed Rhett around a lot of his career, even all the way back at Auburn. He was with Rhett. And pair that, you have an offensive analyst, Gator Lamascus. He worked at SMU for a long time, 2020. He was there with me. So, but look, on paper, I do think we should win this game, but the distraction of game day on the horizon, you have a homecoming matchup against a good Pitt football team. Duke wins aren't huge. They haven't been blowing people out, but they beat Florida State for the first time in 23 tries. I mean, I know Florida State sucks this year, guys, but when this is a one-sided matchup for 2 decades, it starts getting beaten into people's heads of, well, can we ever beat this team? And they were finally able to get over that hurdle for them, and they're carrying a lot of momentum into this week.
Yeah, I agree. And just getting over that hump, you talked about it, just sometimes you've got to get over that mental, wall of a team that you haven't beat ever. And I know SMU has kind of been on a little bit of a run with that under Rhett Lashley, getting past a Memphis, winning a conference championship, beating TCU this year, doing some of the things that they've done. But I think when you look at Duke, I think this is the game for them based on who they've played and the record of their opponents outside of maybe a Georgia Tech, where we really find out, are they legit or are they, a little, are they just kind of happy to be there in a sense in year one under Manny Diaz?
Yeah, are they contenders or are they just pretenders? We'll definitely find out on Saturday. So my keys to the game for this week is we can't read our press clippings like I think we might have for a little bit against Stanford. We have to respond after what really was kind of just a so-so check-the-box win against a really bad Power 4 football team. We got to start fast. And look, guys, I know I'm saying this every week, but we're 5-0 when we score first. The other 2 games that we did not score first were a dogfight against Nevada, and then we lost to BYU when they took an early lead. And so we're going to have to jump out early and get on Duke's necks so we can play from ahead, because that's how this team is built. We're built to run the football. We're built to play great defense, and play from ahead now. Defense, the second point, needs to smother this offense. Defense has come up big for us on the road so far this year, and they've been balling out. We've said it every week. But we need to keep that up. It is hard to be consistent and do something on a weekly basis in college football, but we're going to need it. And then third and finally, we need to out-execute. The best game plans do not matter if you do not execute on Saturday. Duke, I have full confidence they are going to have a great game plan because of the familiarity with Rhett. But it's not going to matter if we go out and we execute our game plan, because I talk about it. You're played 12 games a season. You play 12 games against yourself. How great can you execute, and how good can you look on Saturday when the lights are on and there's no do-overs?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this game, it's not going to come down to which coaching staff wants it more to beat the guys that they're familiar with. It comes down to players, but I think you're going to see 2 teams that are really familiar with each other in terms of how they've been prepared. And Kevin was talking about it as well, just some of the things that they know that probably Johnny wants to do offensively for the defense. You've got Rhett Lashley giving a little bit of, pointers to Kevin as far as what to expect from a Manny Diaz defense and a guy he faced in practice for 2 years and doing all of those things. I think that's where the chess match is going to be really interesting, because Manny Diaz and that staff does have them playing pretty good defense right now.
Yeah, when SMU has the rock, they're going against the number 22 defense in total yards in the country. SMU is 25, so Duke has the advantage as far as total defense goes. Now, their weak point is they're 79th in rush defense, which plays into our strength. I think we're a team that's built to run the football, and I think we're going to go out and establish a great running game on Saturday. So Duke is the number 17 scoring defense in the country. They're not giving up a lot of points, guys. Defense is definitely the heart and soul of this Duke football program. Manny Diaz, obvious defensive mind, and he's a hard-nosed guy, and he's going to have his guys ready to play. They have forced 13 turnovers on the year so far, and they have 32 sacks on the year. More than 4 a game. This defensive line is cooking for Duke right now. Offensive line is going to have to bring their A game in one-on-one pass protection. And then to pair that, Kevin is going to have to be smart with the football. There are going to be times to where instead of trying to force something and you end up with an untimely interception, or you're trying to get rid of the ball and you get hit as you throw, if you got to take a sack, you got to move on to the next play. Unfortunately, those things are going to happen. This is big-time college football.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think you look for Garen Justice to want to get his guys back on track in pass protection. They ran the ball okay. They stayed committed to it against Stanford 38 times, which I thought was a good thing. You didn't see get a little pass happy, although it was kind of trending that way maybe a little bit early on. This is a game that kind of reminds me of the going into that TCU game where SMU has an opportunity and I think confidence that they should be able to run the ball against this Duke front, but they're going to be ready to go. You know, they have a defensive line. That's one of the pieces of their defense that is a strong suit. And I think you look at the sacks and what they've been able to do, they can play hard and they can impact the run game. I know it doesn't show up on paper, but when you do play with that type of an effort level, that's where you've got to really be on your P's and Q's as far as an offensive line goes, so you can move the ball. And if that happens, I think we're going to see a very the usual offense that we see from this SMU team.
Yeah, fortunately, we have a great defensive line as well, and that's going to get us ready to go. And we're facing these guys in third down period, which I think happens tomorrow. You know, one-on-one pass rush happens on a Wednesday practice. So we're going to be able to get better this week against our own defensive line. But we'll go to Duke's top players. Safety Terry Moore, 6'1", 200, 2 interceptions so far on the year, has an 89.3 coverage grade on PFF. He doesn't let a lot get behind him. So we're going to have to nickel and dime a little bit in the pass game, and we're going to have to be efficient with our throws. And then they have 3 really good pass rushers, guys. Defensive end, Vincent Anthony Jr., 6'6", 250. I mean, that is a big D end. Got a lot of reach. He has 5 sacks and 23 pressures already this year. Pair that with D end Ryan Smith, 6'2", 240. He has 3 sacks on the year. He gets a little less snaps than Vincent Anthony Jr., but he still makes an impact. And then finally, you have linebacker Alex Howard, 6'2", 230, 7 sacks so far this year, guys. 2 of which came last week against Florida State. This guy shows up on tape all over the place. But at the end of the day, it's about us. This group has proven that they can win in one-on-one pass rush reps. This is going to be the biggest pass pro test for this offensive line. And while I want us to commit to running the ball and wear this team out on the road where we're going to rush for 200, eventually you're going to have to throw the ball to be a balanced offense, and you're going to have to give Kevin time to let routes develop so he can be efficient with the ball.
And you're going to have to do that without RJ Maryland this week too. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Rhett Lashley and his staff adapt. You know, he is such a matchup guy. You know, he brings that attention from a defense. So how does that impact how they play the wide receivers? How does that impact maybe how Manny Diaz decides to sell out and defend the run or do this or do that? I'm really interested to see what emphasis Duke's defense places on SMU's offense. If they say, okay, we're going to sell out, we're going to kind of stop the run and do our best there and hope that, okay, then they go one-dimensional and have to throw the football, which, look, Kevin is back-to-back career high in passing, but it's still an offense that you need that rushing attack to be cooking a little bit, and especially on the road in what could be a decent environment. Definitely not Stanford. They're going to want to run the ball and you know, kind of control the game in that respect too.
Yeah, I think back to the Louisville game where that was a great run-stopping front, and we were still able to rush for over 180 on them. And they also had good pass rushers. Ashton Gelati, I mean, that was a first-team all-conference guy last season, and we held him to no sacks on the day. So this unit definitely has it in them to go out and perform in a big-time game, in a big-time environment, and get that MVP, man. I'm trying to give it back to the O-line. This is a great week to go get it. But when we move over to when Duke has the ball, this is how we're going to win the game. Duke has the 112th total offense in the country. SMU is 31st in total offense. So let's just compare team to team. And then Duke has 84th scoring offense. SMU's 11th. So they're only giving up 1.1 sacks a game. They've only given up 8 on the year. So that is the silver lining for them. But they have the 113th rushing offense in the country, while we're 7th in stopping the run. So we're going to have to make this offense one-dimensional. We're going to have to make Duke rely on quarterback Malik Murphy. He's going to have to beat us through the air. He had a lot of hype when he went to Texas and then transferred out. And I think some people were possibly wanting him to transfer, stay in state and stay with us. I'm kind of glad he didn't. He's 62nd in yards per game passing. He's only putting up 214 through the air. And then he's not a runner. I thought he would be, you know, just he's got a very athletic build. He's big. He's strong. I mean, he has 9 carries for negative 54 yards. And I understand sacks count, But I would rather have our guy, our number 7 back there.
And I think when you look at the line, 11.5 last I looked, I think this is where a lot of that comes from. They look at what SMU's done defensively to a lot of good teams. You look at what SMU did to Louisville. You look at what SMU was able to do to TCU at times, Florida State at times. And for the most part this year, this defense has played extraordinarily well. And I mean, we will get to predictions later, so I'm not going to say anything, but it is one of those games where you could see SMU's defense really battening down the hatches and playing at a elite level against a bowl eligible opponent.
I'm looking for this defense to shine. I have a lot of confidence that they're going to. I mean, we'll get to some of their best players on offense. I mean, we talked about Malik Murphy, and then their senior running back, Star Thomas, 6 foot, 210, 134 carries, 616 yards on the year. Only 4 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry. So not a great running team, but they really, when they do, they run through Star. And then their senior receiver, Jordan Moore, he's their leading receiver on the year, 31 catches, 453 yards, 3 touchdowns. So I always try to look at the opposing team's offensive line, kind of see how experienced they are, see if they've got, some guys that have played a lot of football, and they do on the left side. They have a pair of grad transfers that are really holding things down on the left. You have Caleb Frings and Bruno Pina. That's the left guard and left tackle, respectively. Caleb Frings transferred over from Elon FCS school, and he has balled out. He has shown that he deserves to play at the Power 4 level. He's the best graded offensive lineman on their team. He is a really good offensive lineman. Unfortunately for Bruno, he is not a very good offensive lineman. He came from UCLA. He was a really, really bad pass protector at UCLA. Gave up 5 sacks, 38 pressures his last year at UCLA. And already so far this year, 3 sacks and 14 pressures. Definitely expect Elijah Roberts, Isaiah, all those guys to really have a good day on that left side.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's what I want to see. I think we're seeing the pass rush, and Rhett kind of talked about that a little bit on Tuesday when he met with the media. I think this defensive line is really starting to impact passers, and we saw it chip away against Louisville. And in that fourth quarter, they totally took over against Stanford. I mean, it was lights out, pressure pretty much all night. They got some big plays here or there, but they really didn't get much going for the most part at all offensively. And that type of a dominant showing is not necessarily what I maybe expect against Duke, but Duke's offense is not very good, at least on paper. Like the SMU defense should be able to control them, to slow them down and keep them at bay. And a lot of that it would heavily lean on those key players getting that pressure and really lighting up Malik Murphy. And then, that really being kind of how they control the game and frustrate this Duke offense.
They have a couple redshirt sophomores and a redshirt junior on the O-line. I mean, those are guys that are 3 years in, but they just haven't really impressed me from what I've seen so far. I am asking and almost pleading this defensive line group, just keep doing what you're doing, man. We don't need anything extra. We don't need you to become J.J. Watt this week because we've been doing enough already.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And they play together so well. We'll be watching as Jonathan Jefferson, who's day-to-day, will be able to go. He's a big piece in the middle. SMU did get Tank Booker back for that defensive line against Stanford, which was good to see. He was out there impacting the way Stanford was able to run the ball, which, as we talked about earlier this week, was a non-existent run game. And SMU, with him in the middle, would love to see that effort replicated. And we'll see if Jonathan Jefferson is able to go in the middle. But Mike Lockhart's been playing well. Corey Roberson has, really seen a resurgence. I feel like he's always been around the ball this year. You've got Jared Harrison-Hunt, who's running around. And then, of course, the guys on the edges are having a great time this year. So I'm with you. Like you said, don't have to be J.J. Watt, but Elijah Roberts making some plays out there that are pretty scary if you're opposing offensive linemen on film too. So they've got a chance to shine once again in front of the ACC network.
Something that's fun about this defensive line, and while I know Tank has a touchdown on the year, and we have other guys that have forced fumbles and things like that, just eating up double teams and not getting pushed back and holding the line of scrimmage with both guys, that frees up our linebackers where we're able to play as a full unit. And I understand on defense, one guy can make the other 10 right. But the more that you can play consistent ball where you're disciplined and everybody has a gap, the better we're going to be in the biggest games. But we'll go ahead and get to predictions if that's cool with you. Mm-hmm. I think Duke's defense is strong. It's the strongest it's been in a while. It's propelled this team to 6-1. This is a little bit of a Cinderella story for Duke. I think the clock is about to strike midnight for them. I think SMU's offense has been rolling since KJ took over, and he plays his best in the biggest games. This is a big-time test in a portion of the season where every game is bigger than the last, but I think we're ready. I don't think Duke's offense is going to be able to match up with our defense, with how physical we've been and how many takeaways we've forced so far this year. I think if we stick to our guns and stick how we've been playing, we're going to be just fine. Malik Murphy is a talented athlete. He has not wowed me. So I think SMU hits the greater than 30-point mark. I think our defense pitches another gem. And fortunately for Duke fans, basketball season's right around the corner. So I got SMU 31, Duke 14.
Ooh, all right. That is a great score prediction. So Hayden has SMU covering, and I did not check the over-under on this one, but I will now as I talk about my prediction. I think this is a statement game for SMU's defense, and I think we could see this maybe be a lower scoring game. The over-under set at 48.5, so you're kind of right at that, just a little bit under there. But I think this is going to be two teams that are going to try to control the clock a little bit and kind of keep the opposing offense off the field if they're able to. And SMU's run game, outside of a couple big runs against Stanford, was good. It wasn't anything like great. Like they kept with it. They kept hammering it away, but it wasn't as good as it was earlier in the year. I think they look to get back to that. Brashard Smith got his touches. Remember, that's a rushing attack that didn't have him on offense the first half against Stanford. With him being ready to go against Duke, I like SMU to be able to get to 35 points this game. And I think it's going to be SMU 35, Duke 11. I think it's kind of going to be maybe a weird score like that for Duke, but they're just offensively, they don't really inspire any confidence in me. The numbers back that up. I'm sorry for Duke fans if they are tuning in at any point, but if you look at their run of scores, they scored 45 points against Middle Tennessee, and then they have not topped 26 points the rest of the season. So they've scored 26 on Elon, 26 against Northwestern, 26 against UConn, 21 against UNC in their comeback. This is a very inconsistent offense. I think SMU's defense shuts them down. SMU wins 35-11.
I like it. I had forgotten that their opponents are a little weak, to be honest. I mean, UConn, Northwestern. I mean, I understand Northwestern's a Big Ten program, but playing in front of 10,000 people on Lake Michigan, so.
It's going to be sick one day when it's done. But.
Yeah, Ryan Field will be badass whenever they're finishing that thing.
Well. Hey, we've got a lot riding on this one as a pod. We could be, maybe hanging out with the game day crew if SMU takes care of business. So we'll be watching 7:00 Central, ACC Network, and the ACC Huddle will be there. Friends of the program, of course, are following SMU around. So Hayden, enjoy the game this weekend. You got any plans for it?
So I am going to catch it. I will be at Enchanted Rock in Fredericksburg on Saturday. I'll be hiking, enjoying some outdoor. It doesn't quite feel as good as I was hoping it would in this time in October, but yeah, I'll take this weekend off and then we can hit it hard next weekend.
Love it. Love it. Well, all right, everyone. Enjoy the game. Keep it locked on theponyexpress.com and the On the Pony Express podcast. We'll be here to cover the game for you and give you all the latest on how the Mustangs are faring in Durham as they make their trip to Duke this weekend. So for Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening to this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU-On3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.